Welcome back, Embers, or if you're new here, welcome to the Campfire Crew. My name is Stone, my pronouns are they, them, and as you can tell by the title, today we are doing my intro and my first update for No Pan Left Behind. If you do not know what this is, a No Pan Left Behind is where you try and use every pan, usually of eyeshadow, in your collection in usually the time frame of a year. So we are doing a year this year. I have about 107 eyeshadows in my collection. They're all beside me, so if you see me looking down, it's either at those trying to grab them or at my sticker covered notebook with all of my notes in it. So usually in my intro, I talk about why I'm doing a certain project, what motivated me to do it, because I like to do projects based on the things I want to accomplish in my collection. So I did a pan those eyeshadows for a while. I did pan that palette for about a year and a half, and I worked primarily on my two oldest palettes. And now I am done with that project. I have a full 40 pan palette that is completely panned, everything in it. It's amazing. It looks incredible. But since I've been mostly focusing on those two palettes, I just felt like it was time to spread the love in my collection, get some use out of things. There's actually a palette. It is my Indigo Ink palette, which I got last year at the beginning of the year, right before I started the new year of Pan That Palette. And so I didn't even know Pan Left Behind it last year, like just this one palette alone. So I just knew that I needed to spread the love within my collection. So to get started, again, I have 107 eyeshadows approximately. This might be off by one or two, but I also have, I believe it's 7 palettes. Yes, so those 107-ish shades are divided up amongst 7 palettes. I'm just going to quickly show them to you. We have 5 shades in my Wishing You, which is going to be a winter palette for sure. We have 18 shades in this Citrus Punch palette. We have 14 shades in this Def Leppard palette. I believe it's still, yes, 14 because I repressed some shades into here. I have a quad that is still all together, so it has 4 shades in it. I have my 40 pan Carnival 3 palette that, if you've been to this channel before and you watched my project last year, you'll know this is my 40 pan palette. So most of my shades honestly come from here. I have my 12 pan Indigo Ink palette, which looks like this. And then I have, how many shades are left in here? It's a 12 pan palette, but the black fell out, and then there's one shade that is no longer in here. These are the ones from the original, and these 2 are from a different palette, which I'll show you now. I originally was going to get rid of the packaging. Long story. Anyway, so currently in here is 3, 6, 9, 10. So 10 shades in here, and then I believe there are 4 shades, yes, 4 shades left of my I Heart Revolution Big Cheese palette. So that's how they're divided up. I determined that if I wanted to use every shade within the year, I'd have to use, I believe it was 9 shades every month. And so, yeah, that's what we're doing, why we're doing it, how many shades we need to use. So let's just finally get into it. Let's go, as I traditionally do, least exciting to most exciting. So I do have, this was not pulled out, my Carnival 3 palette. I decided to give it a break for a few months, but I did in January use a couple of these shades. Let me see what shades I used. Sorry, I'm going to be staring at this a little too much this month. The blue I'm using to mark my tallies is really way too similar to the black that I used to mark last year's tallies. It's a whole thing. If anybody wants me to talk about how I do my markings, because I do them all physically, just let me know. Okay. So one shade I used in this palette is Sundown, which is this orange shade. So I used 1 shade in this, and then I also used Mango. So that's 2 shades in this palette out of 40. I think there's another one, yes. And then Bamboo, which is this shade here. So I used 3 shades out of this 40 pan palette. But since it's not a palette that I have pulled in for January, I think that's great. Any use on that right now is great, and it's definitely going to be the hardest thing to No Pan Left Behind because, again, it is the biggest. So just getting a couple uses every once in a while is going to be very helpful. The next most exciting usage is my Divina singles. So I used this shade, this Orange Goats, once. I used the shade Patina. I guess I don't need to tell you how many times I use these shades because it's a No Pan Left Behind. I am just so used to being like, this is how many times I used all these things. But I did use Patina twice, so I used those two shades, and I also used Parthenos, this shade here. So I also used 3 shades out of this palette, but this is a much smaller palette. I think this is going to be something that I pull out near the end of the year because, I mean, it's a deep, dark color story, so it makes sense. But I did use 3 out of these shades, which is a decent amount of this, like, percentage of this whole palette. So that brings us up to 6 shades I used, and again, I need 9 a month. I'm getting black everywhere. What palette has black on it? It's this one. Great. Anyway, let me just smudge away some of this black eyeshadow that's still crumbled all over everything. Like I said, I have a focus palette, and my focus palette for January was my Indigo Ink palette. Like I said, I really neglected this last year, so I really wanted to No Pan Left Behind it right away. It's also a really pretty, let me show it to you, winter color story, save for these 3 shades. So you got the blues, you got a little pop of red, and a pop of these like brighter shades. And I did manage to use every shade in this palette at least once. The shade that I hadn't used before this year, so the shade I hadn't used last year, was Chromophore, which I did manage to use, which is amazing, so exciting. So yeah, I No Pan Left Behind this, which is a 12 pan palette. So that's 18 shades that I used when I only needed to use 9. So we are behind in my filming, but ahead in this project. I definitely have faith after this month that I am going to be able to do this project no problem within the year. I am not sure yet if I am going to be trying to redo this, like, once I finish No Pan Left Behind, if the year hasn't ended yet, if I'm just going to end the project, or if I'm going to try to, you know, do it a second time, like No Pan Left Behind everything again. That'll just come with how long I have left in the year, how my other project is going, things like that. But we'll decide that when we decide it. But if you have any suggestions for me, let me know. This has been a very short update. There's not much to talk about, but very exciting. We are well ahead of schedule to complete this, which is great because it gives me a chance to not wear makeup a lot in other months, which is good because, you know, if I get really depressed or I just like don't wear makeup, really busy, depressed, if anything happens where I'm not really wearing makeup, sick, for example, it means I'm ahead and I will still probably complete this project, which is really good. I'm really excited, and I will see you guys next time. If you enjoyed the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see updates on this, other projects, and then I'm going to be doing some other things on this channel. Hopefully I will be up to date on everything soon. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys later. Bye!